Okay. Okay, we're gonna look at the Rachaber. It's our first month of Shabbos year. Very exciting. We're gonna start from Yud Gimel Amud Aleph from the bottom towards the bottom. So look at the Gemara. Shisha Chadashim B'Shemen Hamar. The Megillah says that the women were lathered up with for 6 months with Shemen Hamar. My Shemen Hamar. Rabbi Chia Bar Abba Abba Satachas, which is balsam, according to the art scroll. Rav Huna Amar Shemen Zay Shalei Hevi Shlish. Shemen Zay is that did not grow out a third, and it's supposed to. I guess it's a better. It's a some yuchadik. What's it called? There's like some special alwa. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Aimer an Pakinyan Shemen Zay Shalei Hevi Shlish. An Pakinyan is talking about B'Snachos Menachas. The oil that is not allowed to be used for the carbon for the mincha is ampankinyan, and the Gemara does not explain it over here. The Gemara explains it over here, and it's from this oil from olives that were not grown out a third. The lama sach, and I said, what was the tachas of it? Shemashir esaseir. It removes the hair, presumably from the body, so it took up any unwanted hair, especially from women. Uma'adan esabasar, and it makes the skin glow. Actually, like it makes it glow like a golden glow. I think in itself it's just it makes it glow. Be'erev he bought biker he shava. So this is a gnai that Achashverosh just went through women. He sent them home. He took them at night and he sent them home in the morning. From this derogatory statement of Achashverosh that he went through a bunch of women. There's a shach over here. That he wasn't Isaac Babia during the day, which Yom is Lila is the Ikazman of Bia of Tashmish. I just had this hour now. Just thought came into me. If the Megillah goes out of the way to point out the shach of Isai Rasha, we have to look at ourselves to find our shach, even in our gnus. And this is Rav Nachman talks about this all the time. The Nekudas Haiva. To look even in the worst master that a person's in, you have to find that pinta a little bit that you can hold on to. Everyone compared it to her ummah. We had this a few while ago as a raya, as an explanation of how we knew this idea that everyone loves her. They wanted to bring out as a raya that but this is a raya not like that. But it's a lav dafka. It doesn't have to be done with Ruach Chodesh because everyone said they wanted her to be from her ummah. So why did we have to know exactly what day, what month that Esther went to the base, went to Paray? Wow, Achashverosh's palace. To show the hashgacha that Hashem made that He took her in Teves, which is a very cold month, and it's extra geschmack to be with someone because it's very cold outside. So being with someone physically, your nana from the body heat from the other person, it makes it more geschmack. So that he should like Esther more. You have a melech chesed mikol nashim tisachem bechesed lefanav mikol abesulais. Amar Rav, so it says nashim and besulais. Amar Rav bikesh l'time tam besula tam bula tam. If he was in the mood of experiencing that of a bula, he had a bula. If he wanted that of besula, he had a besula. I don't know what that means exactly, but that's what the Gemara says. Yas melech mishtav l'gadol, avid mishtav v'loy galilei. So the full pasuk is, hold on. The full pasuk is Vayasem Melech Mishta Gadol L'Chol Sarav V'Avoda V'Chol Sarav. It's Mishta Eser. Another time it says Mishta Eser, which that's something the Gemara knows that it's for her. V'Anochel the Medina is Asa, and the Gemara can dash in that part. V'Yitim Asais Kiyad Melech. So the Gemara only brings down the first part of the pasuk, but it's dashing in the whole pasuk. Amar Rav Bikesh. I'm sorry. Vayasem Melech Gadol Avid Mishta V'Lo Galilei. He made a suda in her honor, and she did not reveal where she's from. He took off the head tax, which is the next part of the pasuk, and she still did not tell him. And he gave out extensive gifts to all the cheshuvim, and she still refused to tell him all where she's from. And then the pasuk continues. He and he took all the basulis again. So why did he so the question is, why did he take all the girls again? This is after already picked Esther. So why did he go for? Why did he go take all the girls again? Right, he already picked Esther. So why did he go again? He asked Mordechai for advice. I'm trying to get my wife to tell me where she's from, not knowing that Esther was with Mordechai. She said, "Let me hear what I want. Give me eitzah how to get her to talk." Amar ain't isha miskana ella b'yerech chaverto. If you take another woman, you'll make her jealous, and then she'll Then she'll tell you then she'll tell you where she's from. So that again, that's why he took all the other women again. Because the next part said Esther still with all that did not reveal. The question is, why did Mordechai give Achashverosh eitzah on how to get Esther to talk when he's the one who told her not to talk? So they explain because he really hoped that after being with all the other women again, he'd find someone else that he's more interested in than Esther. He didn't. That was his cheshbon. You can say I didn't see it anywhere, but just like you have to give him good advice. Stam, you have to give him good advice. You can't give him. He can't. He's the hand to the king. He's the king's advisor. You can't give him like shach advice. Fine. Amar b'lezer madach lo yigrab mitzadik einav that Hashem does not remove his eyes from a tzaddik b'schar tznius. To mean refers to giving the tzaddikim schar even generations later. B'schar tznius shahisa b'rachel zachsav yatzu men hashar because of Rachel's tznius. We're going to see what it means exactly. But she was actually at Shaul, who was also active at tznius. B'schar tznius is Shaul. Shahayu by B'Shaul zachav yatzu men Esther. And Esther and the fact that Shaul was active at tznius, he had Esther's tznius is referring to this story that she refused to say where she's from. What was Rachel's big story of tznius? So we're going to see this is one of the first stories we learn in the beginning of Klal Yisrael, and it says Yaakov told to Rachel, "I am your father's brother," which is not really true. He was his nephew, wasn't right? Yaakov was Lavan's nephew, not brother. Ella, there's a backstory here. Amarla, he said to her, Menasvasli, marry me. Amarla, I'm asking, but Miu Abba Ramo, my father's a gangster. He's not gonna allow it. Amarla, Achav Abba Ramo. So this referred to when he says Achav, he's like, don't worry, I know how to play shtick. Amarla, she said to him, Umi Shari Letzadik Lesaguye Beramayusa. Could a tzaddik act in trickery? Amarla, and I could. Why? Because it said he brings on a pasuk. I forgot where it's from. Im navar titavar v'mikesh titapo. Let's check really quick. Where's the shmuel? So he says with a straight person you walk straight, and with a crooked person you what? With a straight person you act normal, and with a crooked person you act accordingly. Amar so he said to Rama Musa, Rama Yusei, what's his shtick going to be? Amalei. Isli achasa the kashishimina. I have an older sister, and he's not going to let me marry before her. Masala simanim. So this is the famous everyone knows that Yaakov Avinu gave Rachel simanim. He Laila Amra. When the night of the chasana, when she saw Leah getting dressed up, right, the makeup artist only called her into the room and not Rachel. She said, "Amra Hashem mikasba chasi." Now my sister's going to get embarrassed. Why? Because she's going to come to the chuppah. He's going to ask for the coat. She's going to just walk off to the middle of the chuppah. It's horrible. So Misartinu niala. So she gave her the coat. The what's it called? The simanim. And the chsiv vahine he Leah. In the morning it was Leah. Mechlav ad hashalav Leah. He's saying Leah wasn't there the whole night. It was only Leah came in the morning. Elam simanim Yaakov did not know that it was Leah until right now in the morning. Because she acted with tznius, and the tznius is not that she just gave over the coat. She didn't tell Leah that she was giving over the coats, right? Which is the famous story why when Rachel wanted to switch Yaakov for the night in exchange of Reuven's dadam, Leah said, "You stole my husband, now you want to steal my dadam also?" What do you mean? Why do you stole my husband? I gave you my husband. Without me, you would never have been here. And the Mefarshim say on the spot that she never knew that Rachel did what she did. So that was really the tznius. The Gemara doesn't say that, but I think that's more the tznius than just giving over the coats. But the further more, Matzi is Shaul. What did Shaul do? That was considered a tznuah. Dechsiv. That's the Malchus Lahigid Layash Amar Shmuel. So the story was that Shaul was looking for his donkeys. He went over to Shmuel to ask him for advice where they are, and Shmuel said, "Once we're on the topic of donkeys, let me make you a king." So he made him the king. When he went back to his uncle, the uncle said, "Where were you?" He said, "I was talking to Shmuel. I was trying to find my donkeys." But he didn't say that I just became anointed king. So because of that sneeze that Shaul didn't announce to his uncle, even though I'm sure he found that eventually, but he did not know at the time that he didn't say, "Oh, I just got anointed king." That's a certain level of sneeze, and he was like Esther came from him. Now, how we know that Esther came from Shaul is a little bit bedaichik. Rashi down the Targum. It's not clear, but that's what the Gemara says. Amar Rabbi Lezer Kishakadosh Baruch Hu Paisik Gedul Adam Paisik Levanav Bnei Banav outside Kol Adayis. When Kadosh Baruch Hu is a man of someone for greatness, it doesn't just go for him. It's for Hashem. Hashem is asking that all his daughters should be great. Shenam vayashiveim lenetzach vayigba. Hashem picked them up for greatness lenetzach. But v'mheges datay. But if he becomes a guy because of the greatness and he doesn't realize where it all came from, Kadosh Baruch Hu mashpilai shenam v'masurim bazikin. And if the person's tied up in poverty, the pasuk finishes off that if a person's tied up in poverty, and the hemshech is that if the person is arrogant and holds himself to high esteem, then he ends up down with poverty. The Esmaim Mordechai Esther Isa did whatever Mordechai told her. What does that mean? She showed. If she had any shilas damnida, she showed it to Chacham. Kasha Isa ba'amna'itai amara Bar Lima, Shahaisa Imedis Mecheka Shalachazresh, but the Velas V'Yesheves Mecheka Shamordechai. That she after she was with Achashverosh, which was she wasn't also to Mordechai because he was ba'inus, and an isha that's not married to a kayin. No, it's any isha that's married to someone who's not a kayin and is forced to be with someone else. She's not also to her husband, but she would be toivel according to Rashi. She'd be toivel. This shouldn't be disgusting to Mordechai. I forgot the Mashah that she wrote down. No, it's directly related to the Dam Nida Shaila. So once she had a Dam Nida, she wasn't careful with Nida. She wasn't able to be careful with Nida by Achashverosh. So after she finished Achashverosh, she had to go to. She went to the mikvah and she went to Mordechai. This lashon katzah is meant to be dashmut. He says Hiktsev HaKadosh Baruch Hu Adon Alavad. He's saying two stories of here. Hiktsev HaKadosh Baruch Hu Adon Alavad V'Lasat Tzon Tzadik. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made Adon excessively angry at his servants in order to do the will of the tzaddik. Umanu Yosef. Who was that? Yosef tzaddik. Shnei V'Sham Itai Nar Ivri. When the Hashem made Paray overreact when the Sar Mashkin, Sar Ha'ifim and Sar Mashkin messed up in the way that they did, and in order that they should be with Yosef Tzaddik and be able to redeem him by saying the story that he was part of the dreams. Avadim and Hiktsev Avadim al Adenayim Lasis Tzaddik, and he made the servants made the servants excessively upset at their master in order also to do an ace for a tzaddik. Umanu, who's this? Mordechai. V'chsiva yivad hadav l'Mordechai. Omer Rabbi Yochanan bixim v'ser shnei tarsiim havu. V'ayim esapim v'lashin tursi v'aimrim. They were talking amongst themselves in their native tongue. From the moment that Esther came into the palace, we did not get any sleep. The Rashi explains that because Achashverosh loved her so much, he was constantly with her. There was a rebuy of bia, and he got very thirsty. So every half hour, whatever it was, he would wake up his guys to go get him a drink. So they said, okay, you know what, we're going to poison them. So this is also an excessive thing because you don't sleep at night, you're going to poison the king. Like that's excessive. That's excessive aggression. They want to kill him. He knew all the languages, and so he knew what they were talking about. And it's interesting just to point out. Artzker brings it down, and I looked it up. The Rambam holds Paskins in Hilchas Sanhedrin that not Hilchas Sanhedrin. I'm not sure. Hilchas Sanhedrin, yeah. That they don't have to know all 70 languages, only the most common ones. It's like Roiv. His lashon is like Roiv, and the Ketzer Mishnah says it's interesting. I looked it up. It was you grow up your whole life thinking, that one of the Shivim, we grew up always knowing that Mordechai had to know all 70 languages because everyone on the Sanhedrin had to know all 70 languages. But the Rambam says it's not true. They don't have to know all 70. They have to know Roiv. And the Ketzer Mishnah said they have to know the most common. It's very interesting because your whole life you hear that they have the Zanagoda have to know all 70 languages. It's just the Rambam doesn't pass like that. Interesting. But we don't have the same post. So how are we going to coordinate like this? I'm going to cover your post. And the matter was searched out and found. The first thing they did was they found out and they see that one guy is missing from his post. They thought something was up. What's it saying? After Akash Baruch Hu set up the board with Esther in power and Mordechai saving the king's life. Now the next words follow that Achashverosh appointed Haman Mishnah Malach, right? So Akash Baruch Hu sets up the board for Refuah, and then he hits the market of Haman. The Amar Reish Lakish Ein Akash Baruch Hu Makas Yisrael Ella Imkein Ba'da Lam Refuah Tchila Shnemar Karafi the Yisrael v'Nigla Avayin Ephraim. Akash Baruch Hu is talking about punishing Ephraim for that era. And first he says, I'm going to heal Yisrael. The Nagav Hashem es Mitzrayim Nagav v'Rafai. Hashem said, the Lashon of the pasuk is Nagav first, and the Gifa, then the Rafai, then the healing. It's interesting to point out that what's the nafkamina? At the end of the day, if they both get healed and they both get hit, what's the nafkamina? So, first of all, one Indian is because Hakadosh Baruch Hu already promised he's not going to destroy us. So because of that, he automatically, so he knows that he's going to for sure use the refuah, so that's why he puts it in place. But I think it's the lashon, it's like a chiba. Because when someone gets a shot, like already before you even get the shot, you take out the band-aid, you take out the gauze, you already have all the tools ready. When someone tries to cut you or hurt you, the refuah is not there, so you see that it's out of love that we got the makkah. So the pasuk is. The pasuk is Vayibas be'en of Lishlach Yad ben Mordechai levadai ki higidu lo yes am Mordechai v'yivakesh Haman la'ashmila es kol Yehudim. So the Gemara Dash and the Rabbi says the whole pasuk, but Tchila Mordechai levadai. First it says Mordechai b'soif ba'am Mordechai umanu rabbanon. That was his chaver. The ba'am Mordechai is not just I don't want just one rabbi. Give me all the rabbis. I want to kill them. B'soif b'chol Yehudim. So that's the hemshech of the pasuk. Kippur who agayel tana kimitz for b'chaydish adar samach simcha gedayla. Right? Haman was Mekayim. As soon as he found that it was Adar, he got very excited. Moshe died in this month. He's very excited. It makes sense. It's bad mazel for the Jews. It's going to work out. Moshe was also born in this month, so it's not necessarily a bad sign for us. The Shana Bishan Kaman. No one's Haman is an expert lashon hara zager because he laid it out perfect. Amalei Tana Pa Nichalinu. Let's kill them. Amalei Achashverosh is back to them. Mistafina Me'alikov the Leila Avid be Keda Avid Bekamai. I don't want the same thing to happen as my ancestors that they got wiped out. So I don't want to start up with the Jews. Amalei Yoshnim and Mitzvahs. They're shluching the Mitzvahs not on the same level as they were before. So you don't have to worry about it. Amalei. It's Mun Rabbanon. They have the Rabbanon that are going to down for them. Amalei Am Echarein. They're one nation, which means that you can't. The Rabbanon are not going to be able to save them. If they don't deserve to be saved, they're not going to be saved. What if you're worried that I'm going to make a bold spot, literally, but like an empty a big empty spot in your malchus? They're scattered all over the place. They're not concentrated in one area that wiping them out is going to cause like a serious geographical issue. Shematimer is Hanaminayu. What if you can say what do you mean? Maisa, they're doctors, they're lawyers. They provide an asset. They have a net positive value to the economy. So Haman said, "Mefaira the kafirda zu she'ein isa peres." They're like a mule. Appeared as the lashon a mule. A mule is a sterile animal. It's a hybrid between a horse and a donkey, and they do not. The mixed breeds are sterile and barren. They cannot have kids. What if you're going to say that still one province is going to become empty barren because of them? They're spread all over the place. The same Shon is Mikalam. And what's the point? Well, he said the same. They don't eat too much. They don't marry our women. And they don't let us marry their women. So they keep private. We're not missing out on anything. But as does say, they're never available for work. They're always busy. They're always busy with Shabbos Hayom, Pesach Hayom, they're never available. Right? The whole Tishrei they're all from Rosh Hashanah through Simchas Torah. They're never available to work. The Melech ain't Shavla Anicham. The Achlu v'Shasu Mavazu Le'Malka. They're the Mavazu the Malchus. Va'afilu Neifel Zvuv b'Kaisis Shel Echamem. If a Zvuv falls down into the wine. Zaku v'Shasei, they throw out the Zvuv and they drink the rest of the wine. But if you just touch the outside of the wine, they don't drink it because of the ayin esach, right? So he pours it on the floor. I remember Maisa that there was one of the kings went to one of the tzaddikim that was an advisor, and they said, "Is this true? Would you touch my wine? So if I touch your wine, will you drink it?" So he said, "Before I answer you, Adoni, please wash your feet with water." So he washes his feet, and he drank either he drank it or he was willing to drink it. He said, "I'll drink the water from your dirty feet." This is a halacha that if you touch my wine, I have to spill it out. It's not a pagam in you. And this was able to work around that. It shouldn't be designed to the king. That one day Haman's going to try to pay to buy us off with shkalim. Hiktim shkalayim l'shkalav. Hakadosh Baruch Hu gave us the mitzvah of shkalim way before. That's why it says the claim is not relevant, but the Bezin was machriz and reminded everyone, don't forget to get your shkalim, and don't forget to take out the claim. The claim is things that happen by mistake. Claim you still have to rip out, and they announce that Rish Chodesh Adar. Interesting to point out that it's the same Rish Lakish that says that Hakadosh Baruch Hu he makes the fruit before the makkah. This is the same idea that he makes the shkalim, our shkalim before their shkalim. It's the same concept, both are shlokish. One guy has a mound of dirt in his field. One guy has a hole in his field. I wish I could buy off this guy's mound to fill in my hole, but I wish I could buy a hole to fill. I wish I could get rid of my dirt and put it in someone's hole. So the Balacharetz is referring to Haman. Sell me your pile. Take it for free as long as take it. So they bring down that the reason why Achashverosh, you never see Achashverosh get really punished in the Megillah, even though he was also a Rasha. We see from this story, from this mashal, he's also a Rasha. But the diak over here is that he held the Eid in a very high esteem. So even in the conversation that they didn't have in the Megillah, but the Gemara brings down, he said, "I'm scared of their God. Maybe they produce." He held them in high regard. He wanted to kill them. He wasn't a good guy, but at least he had a respect for us, and that's why he didn't get the same fate as Haman, who got hung. This removal of the signet ring, all these Nevi'im and Nevi'is could not get the Eden to do tshuva, but one little simple gesture by the king to promote Haman, that got everyone to start crying. The only thing that the Nevi'im added to the Torah was Mikra Megillah. The reason why the Gemara doesn't bring down Chanukah, which was really after the Megillah, is because that wasn't the times of the Nevi'im anymore. But over here we have still Chagai Zechai Malachi, I think. Chagai Zechai Malachi, yes. So it's still technically in the era of Nevi'im, so that's why Megillah is considered that it was added by the Nevi'im. My drush, how do they know that they should add something? In other words, who said, why'd you add another mitzvah? They made a kavachaymer. Just like by Tzis time, that Madach by Tzis time. But we weren't trying to get killed. Right? I mean, there was times that they tried to kill babies, it wasn't pleasant, but the ikra was Me'avdas Acheres, right? That was the ikra Memisa L'chaim, if we want to be wiped out, we got to say, of course we should. Say halal. Don't just say the Megillah, say halal. The fee, don't just make another Yom Tif, say make a halal. The fee she'ain I'm halal al neis b'chutzaretz. Because we do not add, you don't say halal by a neis from chutzaretz. So therefore, that's why we don't say halal. You see, it's Mitzrayim for the Gemara. You see, it's Mitzrayim. I think it's a brisa that brought them down. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a brisa. It's not because the Gemara is going to ask kasha from this, so it's not just a memra. The fish ain't on halal. Nesav chutz. Fact, the Gemara you see, it's Mitzrayim. The nesav chutz. It's hechi amas shiva, but we know that we do. And the Gemara Ketanya Achlei Nichnasu Yisrael Aretz Huchshru Kol Aretz Islam Ashira. Before we went into Eretz Yisrael, any nace that happened anywhere outside of Chutzarts, outside of Eretz Yisrael, was it Yevtze Shira? Mishnah Nichnasu Yisrael Aretz Loi Huchshru Kol Aretz Islam Ashira. Then already only nisim that happened in Eretz Yisrael. Rav Nachman Amar Kriyasa Zu Halela. The Kriya Megillah is Gufa Halal. It's in place of Halal. It's another form of Halal. That's why there's an Indian to do it. This Melech, it's a Pesuminisa. There's a lot of Halal-esque features. Rav Amar Bishlam Hasam Halu Avdei Hashem V'lei Avdei Pari Alahacha Halu Avdei Hashem V'lei Avdei Achashverosh Akati Avdei Achashverosh Anan. We are still the servants of Achashverosh. In other words, they didn't go out completely. So how are you going to, it's not a complete geula. But according to Rav and Rav Nachman, we have a kasha. Tanya, I'm sorry, that's the answer already. So the Gemara says, even this brisa that I just said, of that once we go into Eretz Yisrael, you can't say in Chutz La'aretz. That's a kasha from Rava and Rav Nachman, because even when Rav Nachman says Kriyas Zuhulila, and even Rava that says we don't say it, it's because we're not avadim in Achashverosh. But if we weren't, it's because we're still avadim in Achashverosh. But if we weren't, mashma, you would be allowed to. It doesn't stem with that brisa. Once we were nigal, once we were sent to the Galus, then the rest of the lands got upgraded, and we were able to say halal any nace. We just said that there's only 48 Nevi'im and 7 Nevi'ais. There's more. Abba Mishman, yeah, 48. 40, right? This is talking about Alkan. We had this pasuk earlier. This is one of the 200,000. 200 Messiah is 200. Messiah, 200 prophets that were in that Yisrael had at that time. So you see, it's much more than 48, and that's just his dar. There were a lot more. There was 1.2 million Nevi'im. Ella these 48 and 7 that we mentioned earlier are only the ones that were prevalent and relevant to the diverse, the future diverse. That's what we're referring to. He's dashing the pasuk back, going back to the other pasuk. He's going back and he's saying that this where he came from is a place that has two mountains that look at each other. He comes from his ancestors. His ancestors came from a very exalted place. The Bnei Karach did not die. Tana mishum Rabbeinu makayim nizbatze lehem. A high place in Gehenna came, in other words, like a mountain that came up from Gehenna, so they didn't go into the Gehenna, and they stood on top, and that's where they survived. So it's referring to that idea of them being on a high top mountain, not in Gehenna. That's what it's referring to from Elkanah. It's interesting. That's Gufa what started Machlekes with Kairach, that he saw Shmuel come out of him. Right, Elkanah was Shmuel's father. So that he saw Shmuel come out of him, that's what gave him the impetus. Art school word, but not from art school. Right, the impetus to fight with Moshe and Aaron L'Chetchila, because it says Moshe Aaron Shmuel. We learn that the Shmuel is greater, just as great as Moshe and Aaron. So that's what gave him the kayach and the chutzpah to fight. Sheva Nevi'as Maninu. So who are the Sheva Nevi'as? So Rashi brings them if you're interested in all the Nevi'im. Ayin Sham. Sarah, Miriam, Devaira, Chana, what? Nevi'as. No. Sheva Nevi'as Manu. Sarah, Miriam, Devaira, Chana, Abigail, Choda, Esther. 7. Sarah, Milka, talking about Haran, who was the father of Milka and the father of Yiska. The reason why she was called Yiska is because she spoke Baruch HaKodesh. She looked Baruch HaKodesh. Baruch was telling Avraham Avinu to listen to everything that Sarah says. b'yafya. Everyone stared at her beauty. Miriam, v'tikach Miriam hanavia achais Aaron. And this is talking about after the season time, after Kriyas Yamsuf, where she took all the ladies and she's saying Shira, and it said that Tikach Miriam and Avia Achais Aaron, sister of Aaron. In fact, the Mara Achais Aaron, Lo Achais Maisha, Amar Nachan Amar Rav, Shahaisim Misnaba Kishhi Achais Aaron. When she was still only the sister of Aaron, in other words, before Moshe's birth, she said in Avia. But what did she say? V'Imeres, Asi the Imi Shetel Ben, my mother's going to have a son that's going to save Kaiso. V'Shashina Nismali Kalabayis Kulei Aira. When Moshe was born, the whole household of light. Amar Aviv the Nashka Al Roisha. He kissed her for it. Amar La Biti Niskai Nevasich. You see, you were right. Once they put him in the river, Amar Aviv Tapach Al Roisha. He bopped her on the head. Amar La Biti Heichen Nevasich. Well, what happened to you, Nevuah? We're throwing the chosen one into the river. Miriam, when they put her when they put Moshe into the river, she stood by and she looked to see Ladea. What is Ladea? Pashuta. This is to see what's going to happen with her brother. But more than that, the Gemara says that Das Ma Yehei B'Seif Nevasa. She wants to tackle what's going to be the end with the Nevuah. The Vayra Dechsiv, the Vayra Isha Nevia Eishes Lapides. The Vayra, it says first in the that she's the. She's in the Neviah. First thing, Gemara, my Eishes Tapidas. Why do they mention Eishes Tapidas? What's special about that? Then they're trying to say that why are we asking Eishes Tapidas? In other words, a lot of times in Tanakh we mention women up to their husbands, and over here, the reason why we dash is because her husband was shtickle nobody. She was the famous one. Usually we call the woman up to her husband because her husband's the one who's chashuv. So that's how you refer to somebody who's like, oh, this is so and so's wife. But if she's the chashuv one in the relationship, why are we mentioning him? So Sha'isa Isa Psilas Hamikdash. The Mishkan they changed to. Because what happened was he was a very simple person, and she wanted him to be Mekushah to Tyra. So she said, just go to the Mishkan, even though you're not a big Talmid Chacham, but go make the wicks, do whatever busy work for them. But because she put her husband in a matzah where he can grow, she was like a Nevuah. And she was sitting, the virus sat underneath a palm tree. Now, you point out because there's so many palm trees in Eretz Yisrael, it's not really a great reference. If I tell you, meet me by the whatever, it's like, why are we telling where she sat? It's not a reference point if there's palm trees everywhere. So, my Shna Tachas Timer, what are you telling me? What are you Amar Hashem Ben Avshalom, Mishum Yichud, the reason why she sounded under the palm tree because they're very tall and very wide, and there was no issue of Yichud when people used to come see her. A palm tree only has a trunk, and all the branches are directly into the trunk. So the sap goes directly in one place. As opposed to a regular tree where there's a trunk, and then there's multiple branches, and the leaves are feed off all the branches. So Afisol Shabai Sayadar Lo Hayalahan Alalevach Lavim Shvashamayim. Chana, how do you know the Chana was a Navi in Avia? Except for this Baal Chana Vataimer, Alatz Libi Hashem. Ramakarni Vashem. Ramakarni, she said Ramakarni, which is exalted the Karen, the light a Paki, not a Rampaki, which is a jug, David Shleima. David Shleima Shenimshachu. The Karen Nimshacha Machlusan. Shal V'yehu Shenimshachu V'pach Lo Nimshachu Machasan. So you see that she referred to this concept that somebody who's anointed with a Karen would be an everlasting Malchus, and not someone who's anointed with a jug. They say the reason for that is because a Karen starts out small and ends up big. So something that starts out with difficulty. That idea of a Karen is a horn. It starts out small and it opens up. So something that starts out in the beginning, it's tough, and then you're able to expand it. That has a kiyum. Something that goes easy from the beginning doesn't have a kiyum. Okay. I think we're done. We started from where? Yeah. Okay. Shkayach. Tomorrow night, Mitzvah Shem. No.